Yeah, so hi everybody. Good to be back. It's probably been 6 weeks since the last time I recorded an episode and put it online. So, what's been interesting during that time is, first of all, I always knew that I was going to be back here. There was no question whatsoever that I was going to stop with this project, primarily because it's so good for me. I really enjoy doing it, and I feel it gives me just time where I just reflect. I talked about it before. I don't make show notes. I do sort of decide what the topic is going to be before I come into the studio, and I may just click on a couple of videos and just refresh one or two thoughts or whatever. But for me, it's very much about then, it's like a bit of a meditation, I sit here for 30 minutes or so to get a 25-minute episode together. I don't cut much out. What you get to hear is very much the stream of consciousness, but it is like a meditation. It's a time for reflection for me, which is brilliant. On top of that, I do just get that feedback, and I encourage you again, if you feel that it's been helpful, if you feel that it's been triggering, whatever reason you have, I really enjoy it when people get in touch. And yeah, that's the motivation as well. It's an added motivation to say, yeah, I want to carry on doing this as well, because I feel like it's having an effect. If I can just reach out to one or two people, I've said it before, save one or two people an argument or whatever, then yeah, that's a great thing. So yeah, the reason I haven't really been here is one part of it is Christmas, New Year, and all that stuff. The other part, it's been an emotional time. I'll get round to it, to covering it in a podcast at some time or another. The time's not right at the moment. It's too fresh. As open and honest as I try to be in this podcast, it's still a bit too intimate for me to go into that at the moment. But the topic that I've decided on for today, I think, is really relevant, especially for like this time of year. So Happy New Year, whoever's listening to this, and it still is appropriate to say Happy New Year. If it's not, then just happy whatever day of the week it is for you when you're listening to it. I think it's a good time to just sort of consider, how has the year been? How many of my goals did I manage to achieve this year? How many cock-ups have I had this year? How many times have I discovered that I'm doing the same rubbish things? I'm making the same mistakes as I did before, and that's exactly what this is about. I think a lot of people who are interested in sort of self-development, I'm never really sure what you should call it. Am I searching for enlightenment? Am I trying to improve myself? Do I need to improve myself? Am I trying to just understand myself more? I don't know, but there's so many things where it's about like the path less traveled and taking the right path and finding the middle way and all those sorts of things. I don't think it's absolutely necessary to define it all, It's just, I feel like it's progression that I'm looking for, I just feel like, I don't want to feel like I'm just running on the spot and nothing's changing around me, that the things that annoy me, I don't deal with them differently. I just carry on getting annoyed by them, all of those things. So yeah, let's call it the path for now, And I think in a lot of instances, people have this imagination. They're on a path. It's a progression. They're moving forward into something else. Let's call it Nirvana for today, because it's just a great band anyway. But let's call it Nirvana for now. We're on our path to Nirvana. So those are the names that we're going to give to those things for today. And you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to find them good, but it's just so that we can know we're on the same level for our communication for the rest of the episode. Very often we'll get disheartened because we'll find ourselves in a situation where we think, I've been here before. I'm back in the same pattern. I'm back in the same situation, doing the same things, making the same mistakes, having the same feelings or whatever. And I think it's really important to just have a closer look at that moment and not be disheartened by it. You know, it's easy to say, oh, this is too fucking hard. And that's the thing, isn't it? This path that we're talking about, it's not a motorway. You know, if it was a motorway, everybody could jump in a taxi and get themselves taken to the end of it, to Nirvana. Take me to Nirvana, taxi driver. But that's not the case, is it? We have to get there under our own steam. You can get help from other people. It's great if you've got people around you who reflect with you and are on a similar trajectory, on a similar path. But at the end of the day, it's things you have to do alone, you know? And I don't think there's anything bleak in that either. So yeah, we tend to have this like moment of doubt. I've been here before, I've done this before, I'm not moving forward, I'm making the same mistakes again and again. I think, first of all, the first thing is, if you realise that, then you've already made a step forward. You know, if you've got the awareness of the fact that you're back in the same shit again, same shit, different day, as it were, I think there's already the awareness of that is already a step forward. It's already an advancement. And that makes it, if you can look at it from that point of view, it makes it more difficult to say, well, fuck it, I'm in the same place as I was before, so I'm going to give up now. There's no point in this. I always end up back where I am, where I was. And so I'm going to give up, you know. And it's what I said, especially with New Year's resolutions, you know. It's like, I'm going to give up smoking. It could be a New Year's resolution for you. 2 weeks in, you're smoking. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll try again next year. That's just... Giving yourself a year off is not a solution, is it, really, when we're completely honest with ourselves? And so, yeah, a much more benevolent view is, oh, I've slipped up, you know. I'm not a failure. I've slipped up, you know. I've slipped up. That's just enough to say, I haven't been perfect, but I'm a human, so I don't expect to be perfect. That's the thing. And having people around you that understand that as well, you know, so that if you've got someone there who's going to turn and say, I told you so, told you you wouldn't be able to do it. Well, that's no fucking help, is it? It's not doing anyone any good except for their ego, because they can confirm how clever they were. It's fucking useless to anyone. But so, yeah, to get to the point, I heard like a story, and I really don't know where. I don't know where I picked this up for the first time. And as I looked online earlier on today to try and see if I could remember who I actually stole this story or this idea or this visualization from, I actually discovered that, yeah, there's a lot about this aspect online. There's a lot, even in the business world, spiral growth, spiral movement, I guess we're going to call it. I don't have an episode title up until now. I do like to try and come up with some kind of witty, humorous title for my podcast episodes. I don't have one for this yet, so I'm going to be as interested as you are to see what the title's called when I publish it later. If you imagine, I don't know if anyone's been to Tenerife that's listening to this, probably a few of you. When I was on Tenerife, I didn't have a spiritual enlightenment, but when I was on Tenerife, I rented a car and I drove up from the south side of the island up to the top of the island, the volcano, I think it's called Taida, if I'm not mistaken. And you drive up in wonderful sunshine, if it's a good day. You drive up in wonderful sunshine on the south side of the island. As you come around to the north side of the island, all of a sudden, it's still beautiful. It's lush green forest. It's more like a rainforest than anything else. But it's colder and it's wetter and it's a bit darker. And it's, you know, it's just because the weather conditions, the north side of the island, the wind comes from the south, the clouds settle, the rain falls on the north side, all that stuff. I'm not here to do a geography podcast, but if you've got that image in your head of like this, there's an island, in the middle of the island there's a hill, a mountain, a volcano, however difficult you want to make your vision of your path, And on the north side, it's rainy and it's often cloudy and it can be quite stormy and it's wet and it's cold. On this journey that I'm talking about, it's not possible to just drive up the south side in the sunshine and get to the top and get to Nirvana or get to reach the treasure at the top of the hill or whatever. The only way up is like a spiral path that goes round and round and round and round. And each time you go round, you get a little bit higher and you get a little bit higher, and slowly, step for step, you manage to make your way to the top. The thing is, on that journey, you're going to spend some time on the sunny side and you're going to spend some time on the shadow side. You're going to spend some time in the dark and the rain, and it's not going to be as much fun. It can still be fun, that's the thing. With the right awareness, the right attitude towards it, even moving into that darkness doesn't have to be soul destroying. It's, like you can see, oh, here we are again. I was expecting this and now it's here. I'm not surprised. And yeah, I can be a bit more benevolent in my thoughts because I'm not thinking, oh shit, you've fucked up and you're back at the same place again, dealing with the same shit again. Am I? Am I really? Or am I a little bit cleverer than I was last time? Or am I a little bit stronger than I was last time? Am I a little bit wiser than I was last time? And maybe it's just a nano cleverer or a nano wiser, or I've only gained a few feet on my ascent of the mountain since last time I was here. But it more likely than not, it's a move forward, It feels like you're back in the same place again. But yeah, you're there with more awareness. You're there with more capability to deal with it. And like I say, I think the most important thing is expect it. Don't expect to deal with a problem, deal with something that's probably been there all your life and think, yeah, okay, that's done. That's dealt with. It's like with so many things, I think integration is the thing, isn't it? It's like, I've tried to deal with this, but it's still part of my life and it's still going to be there, but I'm going to integrate it into my life. I'm going to accept that it's there. If you've got that expectation that you're going to deal with problems and they're going to be gone forever, then you're going to be disappointed when they turn back up again. Also, like with this imagery, I love to tell stories. I really enjoy to tell stories. I find it easier for me to understand things if I can put it in pictures. I find it much easier to explain things to other people if I can put it in pictures and put it in stories. And to face it, that's what the Bible's there for. That's what all the myths and all the sagas and the tales and the fairy tales or whatever, it's what they're all there for, isn't it? It's to give us little bits of insight packed up in a story in some way. So yeah, it helps me. It definitely helps me to put it that way. So I have this imagination of this this rocky pathway. Like I say, it's not a motorway that you can just drive up. That's not going to work. You're going to have to put in your own effort. You're going to have to be prepared for knockbacks, be prepared to struggle along the way. And sometimes it's going to be really tempting to say, well, I've got this far. I could just now stop on the sunny side. I really feel like once you've reached a certain point that that's not an option anymore to stop. And I don't think it's an option to go back, for me at least. There's realizations that I've had. There's changes in attitude that I've had. There's changes in my perspective that I've had. They just don't make it possible to go back anymore, which I'm pleased about. Don't say that with any kind of regret whatsoever. But yeah, I know through this image, I know that the darkness is going to come back. I'm going to run into something that's going to trigger me, that's going to make me feel pissed off. Somebody is going to do something that creates a situation that makes me sad. It's not their fault. There's no one to blame, but the situation can still be sad and I can still feel like back where I was again. But perhaps I can have the knowledge in that case that if I get through this, it's going to be sunny again. That gives me more strength to get through it. Also, when the sun's shining, if I've got the awareness I'm not in that I'm not in an illusory state of mind where I think, oh, well, I'm enlightened, so kill me. I'm enlightened, so yeah, this is great, and my life's going to be harmonious and full of pleasure from this point onwards. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I don't think it works that way. At least I've never met anyone enlightened. I know people who are on their way. I know people who have put in a hell of a lot of work. I know people who have got a lot of understanding. But I don't know anyone who's enlightened. I did it in another podcast episode. I don't think it's possible to become enlightened and still be here on this planet, Biggest spiritual teachers will, if they're completely honest, tell you that they also have their bad days, They also still sometimes lose their temper. There's nobody who is perfect. There's nobody who's enlightened. But what I can do is, when the sun's shining, when things are looking great, I can try and get some energy reserves to be aware of the fact that the darkness is going to come back. The difficult times are going to come back. But I've got some kind of inner strength that's going to help me get through those dark times. And slowly, gradually, bit by bit, hopefully then, those hard times get easier to face. And I'm not confronted with this feeling, I'm back again on the same spot as I've been 1,000 times. Now take a closer look and feel into it. My motivation for this episode is partly to do with talking to somebody who's become quite close to me, come very close to me in the last couple of weeks, and sort of discovering this together, that this, it's not going to be easy. If we want to move along this pathway of a relationship together, then there's going to be obstacles along the way. And let's not let it feel like it's all gone Pete Tong and it's all gone pear-shaped just because we have sad days, just because we have days where there's conflict or whatever, Let's be aware of this fact that they're there. And let's try and give each other a leg up, and to get up this hill. Let's try and go together as far as possible along this path. And I think that's something as well, it's so much easier to do this journey with somebody at your side. It's so much easier to travel this path if you have somebody that can reflect with you and for you, so that you can see maybe where you could change something, where you could react in a different way or whatever. But at the end of the day, the demons that you have to battle on the dark side of the mountain, they're your demons, and only you can deal with them, You can be supported. You can get strength from other people. You can also get dragged down by other people, That's the thing. The whole world is full of polarity. And as much as negative thoughts are contagious and can bring people down, put a positive thought in the world, put something kind into the world, put a kind action into the world, and that spreads as well, just the same. It's not that only the bad things multiply. It's not that only the good things multiply. It is just the polarity of the world, And so having somebody on your side can make the darkness a little bit easier to deal with, but the fight is yours, What a bleak fucking thought that is, Yeah, you might be born alone, you might die alone, but the space in between you can fill with people, you can fill it with love, you can fill it with kindness. So, have I got anything more to say on this subject? I don't know. What I was definitely going to say is that the coincidence, that was what I was going to explain. That what I really enjoyed was the fact that I'd been talking about this subject quite intensively with someone close to me. And then I got a message from a friend saying that he just split up with his girlfriend and he was not feeling great. And yeah, so we had a chat. And I was so pleased. I think this something, just an add-on that I'd like to put out into the world. I don't know if I've covered it before, if I'll cover it again, but it feels like a good moment. If you feel like maybe you could reach out to someone, if you feel like you could, that person could possibly help you, do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. I can only really speak from my own personal experience, and that's that I have an enormous flood of pleasure if somebody asks me for help. I get on my tits if it's someone calling me every day to ask me if I can help do up their shoelaces or whatever. But, if I feel like someone needs help and they've taken the step to actually ask me if I'm prepared to help, it's a positive feeling knowing that you are able to give that help. Yeah, it's the usual negative thing, isn't it? We think, it's embarrassing to ask for help. They've got enough shit of their own going on, so I can't ask for help. All those things that I just think stand in the way of what is essentially one of the best characteristics of humankind. This connectivity, this wish to help, this wish to support. I think it's there in all of us, and it gets destroyed sometimes and it gets abused sometimes. So anyway, the point I wanted to make was I'd been talking about this subject of the spiral path and the gradual increments of moving forward. And when you move back into the darkness, not feeling like a failure just because you're in the same situation again. And a friend of mine called and we got into a chat, and he ended the chat by sending me a text afterwards saying, yeah, I really feel like I'm at the start of my journey. And I decided to sort of tell him this story, this allegory of the mountain, the spiral path, the darkness, the light, and all that. And he said, well, yeah, that's really good. That really helped. And then I was online an hour or two later and see then that my favourite guru, Jamie Catto, has just put up a post on pretty much exactly the same theme, a little bit different aspects and different view, but at the end of the day, pretty much the same thing, Be benevolent with yourself and see that you're moving forward, even though you're repeating patterns, even though you're moving back into the darkness again and again and again. And yeah, so that was my motivation. That and the thought that it's the beginning of a new year, and there are going to be some people out there, I guess, that have made plans for the new year that maybe have already gone awry. Yeah, so I think I can wrap it up at that. If you haven't understood what I wanted to tell you now, either I've done a terrible job of it or you don't want to. Either way, I feel like I've done my best. So yeah, I'd like to say looking forward to speaking to you again. I'm looking forward to your feedback if you want to give me any. And as always, thanks for listening. As always, I'd really appreciate any comments, any shares, any 5 stars on Spotify or wherever it's possible to do 5 stars. Subscribe, all those things that podcasters always say at the end of their podcast. And most importantly, take care and be kind.